Hi there, it's Ola here. I'm really sorry for another long break between my videos, but I was moving to another house, another country to be honest, because I moved back to Poland for the summer. And yeah, pandemic didn't make it easier. And I also had my finals at university, which I passed. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. And it's not my finals, but generally being disabled at university and living independently at university while you're a disabled person or not. Unfortunately, I can't tell you how it is to study at other universities in other countries or even in UK, because I've only studied at one university till now. So I'm just gonna tell you how it worked out for me, what I experienced. So maybe my experiences and my story from the university could help you decide if you're gonna go or not go. So I hope you find it useful, and be sure to comment below your experiences from university or other schools, and if you had similar experiences to mine. So if you have no idea who I am, my name is Ola and I have AMC, which is arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. So that's why I'm gonna talk about my experiences at university while being a disabled person, because even though I'm not a wheelchair user, I don't have any very visible disability and very kind of impacting my life disability, I still experience my university life and my everyday life quite different, and I need different kinds of help and accessibility on campus and in my everyday life. So first of all, I studied journalism, media and culture at Newcastle University in UK, and I'm not from there, which you can probably hear from my accent. So I'm considered an EU student because I'm from Poland. So I did not only move, from my family home to go to university, I also moved abroad. It's probably worth mentioning that for the few years before I moved to university, I was quite independent already, so I could do most things like put my clothes on or do everything for myself in the bathroom and basically take care of myself. But there were a few things that I've never really done before because I was living with my parents or with my grandparents, so they were kind of doing it for me. So that's why for me, moving so far away from my family was kind of a big step, and of course I was scared, but I always dreamed about it. I always wanted to go to study abroad since I was probably in middle school, so I was like 13 or 14. I just always wanted to probably move out from Poland because I never felt like it's the place where I would like to stay for my whole life. I'm sure that my parents and my family were all quite worried that I was moving alone so far away from home, but I also think that they knew that whatever's gonna happen, I'm gonna manage with everything. I don't think they were too nervous about it. I don't really know. So I think the most important thing is that you're sure about it. If you want to move out from home and you want to go to university or even to another country or city just to move out and start your independent life, I think the most important thing is that you are sure about it and that you know that you can do it, because when you're confident about it, then I'm sure your family is gonna believe that and you're gonna, seem like you can do it all alone. And also remember that you're never all alone, because you can always, call your friends or your family. You'll always find new friends, and yeah, you can always ask everyone for help. And it's not that you're going all alone. You're always gonna find people who could help you and who you could help, and you always have your family and friends just a short phone call away. So don't think that it's too bad. It just means that from now on you're gonna have to manage to do everything that your mom or dad or grandparents or your carers were doing for you, and you're gonna have to start living your independent life. So if you're wondering about what kind of help you could get from your university, I can't really tell you about each university because I just don't know about it, so you have to check on their website. But help that I received started a few weeks before the start of my first academic year, and I received an email from my disability advisor who asked if we could meet just before classes started, like a week before, to discuss everything that I need them to help me with, or all of my accessibility needs, or just any other concerns that I've had about their help or they've had about my disability and how they could help me. So this first meeting was very long. It was probably like 2 hours, but my disability advisor also invited my DPD, who's like the most important professor or teacher at the course that you're doing. So he also came there to kind of tell me what my course is gonna look like, what equipment I might use, because I also had some, film classes, and the journalism classes also involve use of some equipment like cameras. So he just came to tell me what equipment we're gonna use and how heavy it is, because my biggest concern was if I'll be able to carry everything and use all of the equipment. So the three of us just basically sat together and we discussed everything during this meeting, and after it they've created like a document for me which basically states what kind of needs I have for all of my modules and what things I can do and what I cannot do, which for me is not a lot of things. They just said things like that I can't ride for too long, or that I can't stand for too long, or that I can't carry heavy stuff. On some point though this year I've had to meet with my disability advisor again, because I've had one exam plan that was a 3-hour exam that I was supposed to write 2,000 words essay during that, and I just told them that I'm not able to type that fast, and they said that it's completely fine, and they gave me like extra half an hour. So that was the only thing that I kind of had to use, but I never used it anyway because my exam turned into 24-hour exam because of COVID. So I've never really used any help from my university concerning my disability, but it was good to know that there is a possibility and that there is this document with an agreement that we had, so that if I ever needed to use that, it's always there. In terms of mental health help that my university provides, we have like a health and well-being staff that could help you and could talk to you. There are some counselors and other, I don't know, psychologists probably. But the thing is that I'm not sure how it works. I only know what help they could give you if you have some, you know, minor problems that they could deal with. But the only problem is that they only give you 6 hours of counseling, which is not even hours. I think it's only like 45 minutes, so it's 6 meetings, and one meeting before that where you just basically say whatever is on your mind and whatever you need help with and whatever you need to talk about, and then they give you a person that could talk to you about it, and then you have the 6 meetings. So I've used my 6 meetings of counseling and it wasn't too bad, but it wasn't great either. I know that a lot of students just complain about it because really this counseling is not it's not perfect. I think I've had a better one in high school, but it still is there if you need that. It's just that I didn't find it too helpful, and I also had to change my counselor midthrough because we just didn't connect too well. So what I could talk about more is probably accessibility on campus and any issues concerning studying that are connected to my disability. And there weren't too many, like I said before, but of course things like the fact that I could use my laptop all the time to take notes rather than the handwriting them, or even the fact that buildings on campus are not too far from each other, so it's not too long of a walk, which is also important for me. It just helps, of course, but it's not something that I could, you know, that I couldn't live with. So if my campus was on 2 sides of the city, then I could just take a bus or just walk further, and maybe my legs would hurt then, but maybe they wouldn't. Maybe I would just adjust to that. But I've noticed that my campus was not perfectly accessible for wheelchair users, because I've also done a project on that, on the accessibility on my campus, and I've had some interviews with disabled people on campus, with disabled professors and students, and with disability student representative. So they've all said that there's still a lot of issues concerning that, but I personally didn't have any issues with accessibility on campus. Even the bathrooms are really big in all of the buildings, so you can easily fit with all of your things, and the lock works quite well, which is important for me because I can't hold the lock in my hands too strong. So if it works too hard, then I just can't close or open the bathroom door. So it's just these small things that are very important, because, you know, when you need to go to the bathroom, you need to close the door, and if the lock doesn't work too well, then you have a problem. So even small things like that were not a problem on my campus, so I'm really glad about that. But I know that there are issues for people with other disabilities, and I hope that when students raise these problems, then our estates, services, and just other people on university, whoever takes care of that, they're just gonna take care of that. That's what they say when I was doing this project about accessibility. They said that students just have to raise the problem because they can't do anything when they don't know about it. So I think it may be similar on your campus or in your school, that whenever you need help, don't wait for them to notice that you can't do something. Just tell them, because I'm sure they'll be happy to help you. I've actually just remembered that there was one exam last year that I had that all of the students were supposed to write on paper, handwrite that, but I just said that I won't be able to do that because I can't handwrite so fast, so quickly, and my hands just hurt a lot when I handwrite so fast. And I think we've only had like 1 hour for that, and it was a really long exam, so they had no problems with me just typing it on the computer. I'm not sure how it works with other courses because my course is mostly essay based. I've only had like two exams till now. I've also had some projects like interviews, but it's also a lot of writing or just, you know, creating something on the computer. So I'm not sure how it works with engineering or medicine or just other courses that are more lab based and more exam based, because, you know, just all courses have different things that you have to do, and they probably can't make everything accessible. So you just have to check with your, you know, main professors and your school. But all of my exams and essays were pretty accessible for everyone, and if they weren't, then they made it accessible. For all of my essays, we had no less than a week to write, so it's still a lot of time. Even if you type slower, I think you can still manage to do that, and if you can't, then you just have to email them or go to your health and well-being services, and I'm sure they'll be happy to help you. Or if they can't help you, then they'll just tell you that. But if you need any help, just tell them, because it never hurts you to ask, and it may make your life easier. I don't know if there's anything about studying and university and campus that I could tell you more about. If you have any other questions, you can always message me below. But I've also wanted to talk a bit about just university life and student life and living independently, because I think that's the thing that most people think about before going to university. If they're gonna manage, if they're gonna be fine without their family and friends, if they're gonna manage, you know, just living alone or meeting other people. I think it's just as important as studying, even if it's not more important, because university only takes like what, a quarter or a third of your life, probably less. And then you also have like all of your social life, your friends, your just whatever you do at home and however you manage at home. So I think it's even more important than studying. I think it's, you know, just living independently and switching, you know, to this adulthood life could teach you more than your course at university. So in my first year, I lived in private halls. In UK, you can choose university halls or private halls or just private accommodation. Like you can just rent a house or a flat with a few people or a room alone. So I lived in the private accommodation. In the private halls, sorry, because it was cheaper than university halls. It was a bit further away because most university halls are closer to campus, but my halls were just, I know it was like maybe 25 minutes walk away, but 25-minute walk is not too bad. But I know that it may be an issue for other people, so when you go to university and when you choose your halls, just always check if they're not too far away and if the path that you're gonna take is accessible, because one of my paths was not, because it had stairs, but other one was just fine. So I lived in halls with 5 other people. All of them were from different countries. We didn't get along too well, but we weren't fighting, so it was just fine. We were just, you know, neighbors, flatmates. And in my second year, I lived with my friends in a rented place, in a flat. But now for the third year, I'm moving into halls again. If it's safe, of course, to go to campus, then I'm gonna live in private halls again. And I think it's even closer to uni this time, and it's much closer to the city center where all of the shops are, which is very important, which is another thing that I wanted to tell you about. Because the thing that I struggled with a lot for the first few months was getting groceries to my place, because I had like a small Sainsbury's shop, which is like a local kind of shop close to my halls, like 5 minutes walk away. but it was just more expensive than bigger ones. So I had like a bigger Tesco in the city, but it was probably like 20-minute walk, and 25-minute walk to uni with no, you know, bags, just with your backpack or a laptop is just fine. But walking 20 minutes with all of your grocery bags, I don't think it's easy for, you know, even non-disabled people, because it's just a long walk and it's heavy bags. But then I found out about delivery, and it changed my life a lot, because even if I had to pay like this 1 or 2 or even 3 quid extra, it was worth not having to walk so far away and then walk back with heavy bags, which were even, you know, which took me like even longer than 20 minutes. If you can't walk too far, or if you can't carry heavy stuff, then just consider getting delivery, because you can still go to the small shop next to you to get some, you know, smaller things during the week, but you can order things from a bigger shop that is just cheaper, and they just, you know, bring it to your door. And I usually do that for a month, like, so I order things for a month, so I don't order like meat or anything like that. I usually order frozen food, a lot of milk because it's heavy, a lot of drinks and other things in bottles, or some cleaning supplies. So I don't usually order like, you know, fresh food, because I prefer to get it from the market or from my local shop, but it's still much cheaper and much easier to just get a delivery. And when you get that groceries, you also have to cook that, of course. So if you plan on moving out, then what I would advise you to do is to ask your mom or whoever cooks in your house to teach you a few things before you leave, because the only thing I could cook before I moved out was probably scrambled eggs. Yeah, I think it was only scrambled eggs. So I had to just learn everything by myself and learn on my mistakes. So now I can cook just fine, and I don't eat only frozen food, even though I do a lot because I'm still a student, so I still eat a lot of frozen pizza, of course. But I can just cook for myself if I fancy it. But it would make it just way easier for you to ask whoever cooks in your house and whoever takes care of the house. Just ask them how to make some few simple recipes and how to properly clean the house, because that's also important to do if you've never done that before. And also if you have some problems with, I don't know, your hands like I do, so I can't carry a lot of stuff, or I can't hold some certain things, then you'll also know before you go to uni what things you may need, what other, I don't know, kind of spoons or kind of anything else you may need. Like if you need pans with two holding, with two holds with these two things that you put your hands on two sides or only on one side. It's, for example, way easier for me to carry big pans with water like that rather than in just one hand. So it's just the small things that you can check before you go to uni. You can just check it with your parents or with your friends, whatever works best for you. And it's just gonna make your life so much easier when you're there at uni or in your new place alone, and you won't have to figure it out on your own. And it's also gonna be safer for you, because cooking also involves boiling water or whatever. So if you can do it before, then just do it before and figure it out. Another thing that probably a lot of people think before moving out from home is the mental health side of all of it. It's if you're gonna miss your family, if you're just gonna manage mentally living alone. And I think it depends on the person, of course, but from what I've experienced and from what my other friends who moved abroad to study told me, or not abroad, just to other city, what they've told me is that you always have your ups and downs. So you're always gonna experience some form of missing your family or feeling a bit down, but I think it's still worth it. I think if you still have this few small worse days, then I think it's still worth trying and experiencing the whole moving to university alone and living independently. Because I also feel like when you move to university, then you're probably not gonna come back, and you're probably gonna just figure your own life on your own. Because I always thought that if I was gonna stay with my parents for university, I always thought that I was gonna stay with them for longer, because I just think that going to university makes you an adult maybe a bit earlier than if you don't go to university, if that makes any sense. So if anyone would ask me if I would do it again, then of course I would, even though, you know, I had problems with friends, I had problems with mental health, I had problems with school or with my professors or with my assignments. It's still a thing that you're gonna remember for your whole life and that you're gonna learn so much from it. I think it's just worth it, even if it sucks for a long time. I think it's still worth it, and if it's not worth it, then you can always come back. That's important, that you never go away forever. Like, you can always come back. You always have a place to come back if you don't feel good at university alone or just moving anywhere alone. You also shouldn't feel ashamed if you want to come back, because it's not for everyone. It may be just too early for you, it just maybe not the right time. It maybe next year it's gonna be better to go. So it's never a shame to go back or to call your parents every single day and tell them how your life sucks. But I'm saying it now, and I'm gonna hopefully say it after I finish uni and for my whole life, that it's worth it, and it was worth it to move from Poland to UK, even though I always wanted to move to London because I always dreamed of living in a huge city, and I still do. I don't like Newcastle too much because it's too small for me. I just like, you know, places where there's a lot of people, busy places. But still, I just treat it as a, you know, as another way of learning new things and as another experience, as another journey, as another challenge. And I like challenges in my life, so it's worth it. It's just worth it, okay? But also, it's not worth it if it's too much. And if it's too much, then you can always just come back. It's not like quitting, it's just coming back home. It's normal. Everyone comes back home. Like, I came back home for probably a few months now because I just didn't want to stay, you know, in UK basically alone for the whole time, for the whole summer, because that would just suck. I just wanted to change my environment kind of, because I haven't been home since Christmas. So I just wanted to come back home. I wanted to come back home for probably 2 months before I was able to, before I could, because of pandemic. So I was desperate to go back home. So it's normal, even though I enjoy living alone and I really like this kind of independence that you get when you live alone, I still wanted to come back home, and it's absolutely normal for everyone to just seek being with their family and being home. And of course, one thing that could make your life way easier and could just, you know, make your life just happier is having friends at university or wherever you move. For some people, it's just, you know, absolutely nothing to worry about, but for some, it's the biggest issue they have is just talking to people. And I was kind of like that. I was kind of in between, but I don't think I've ever in my life did more things than I've done in my first week or month of uni. I went to every single party, and I went to every single party. I'm not a huge party person. I don't go to parties anymore, but even though I was not a huge party person and I'm not a huge drinking person, I still went there because I just wanted to meet people, because I knew that even people like me who don't want to go to parties, they would still be there because they would still want to, you know, be with people at the very beginning, because later people could just, you know, create groups that could be a bit more difficult to kind of connect with. But it's not always the case, because I've met so many amazing people after my first week or month of university. So that's also like another stereotype. I think people always feel like they can't find people, they have to find friends at the very beginning of university, because later they're not gonna be able to find anyone because everyone's gonna be in groups. And that may be a little bit of truth, because later, you know, everyone goes to parties or clubs or to book clubs together, but you can always, you know, find these people who are like you, who didn't find any friends before, or you can still, you know, connect with, like, meet one person or two from this group, and then they could bring you into this group. So it's not that you have to find friends at the very beginning, and it's also not that you have to stick with friends who you've met at the very beginning forever, for the whole uni, because if they're toxic, if you don't want to stick with them, then just don't, and find better friends. You don't have to stick with anyone who you've met at the very beginning. You don't have to be friends with them, because believe me, everyone at the beginning of university is super nice and they all seem so super friendly. But later they, you just get to know them better and they may not be as they seemed at the beginning, so don't feel like you have to stick with them and that you won't be able to find any other friends. But yeah, what's also important is that you don't have to go to these parties and these clubs at the beginning to find friends. I did that because I've met a few people at some induction meetings at university and they were just going there, so I just went with them. But there's so many societies, at least in UK. I'm not sure how it works in US or in other countries, but most universities in UK just have so many societies that have their induction meetings at the beginning of each academic year, and you can go there. If you were not a huge partying and alcohol person, you can go to sober society, and they go to amazing places like cafes or just do cool stuff sober. You have so many societies. You have sports societies, you have different book clubs or Harry Potter societies or anything, you know what I mean? It's just so many neat things that you can do, and you don't have to go to parties, you don't have to be the typical university student, you don't have to pretend who you are not. And even if you pretend at the beginning and you meet only people who are clubbing people, you can always, just change it at any time you want. And of course, in terms of accessibility, because that's, also kind of a thing, is that when you actually want to go with people to clubs or to bars or to wherever, I'm not sure how it is in US, but in UK it's kind of difficult to find accessible clubs. All of them, all of the clubs and all of the bars always have stairs. I don't know why, but it's probably because they're in old buildings or whatever, but they all have stairs, and I don't think I've ever seen a club or a bar with a lift. So you probably just have to check before you go, or suggest to your friends that maybe you could go to that place because it's accessible for you. And don't be ashamed of doing that, or don't be afraid of doing that, because I'm sure that your friends, your new friends, are gonna be absolutely fine with that, because they know that, if you're, let's say, a wheelchair user, then you can't go to a place where there's a lot of stairs. It's normal, so they don't want to have a problem with that either when they go to the door and the bouncer tells you that it's not accessible. So just check it before, because it's also gonna be, it's just easier to do things before than later, like I said, with the cooking or with preparing to move out. So yeah, just check that. But yeah, you can do so many things. I think my university has 200 societies and sports club. I may be lying to you, I may not. So there's just so many things to do, and you can spend your time however you want, however it fits you. So there's just so many people just like you just have to look for them. And even if you don't find the right people in the first year, you still have 2 more years or 3 more years or whatever course you're doing, more years. And yeah, you can always just change friends if they're not fine. Just like I said, don't stick with people that are toxic, because it's not worth it. No, that is not worth it. Going to uni probably is worth it, but sticking with people that are toxic just because you think you're not gonna find other friends, it's not worth it. It's just not. I think it's even better to be alone, to be honest. I've had this, moment at uni when I didn't quite have a good, time with my friends, and I just enjoyed my company so much. I kind of still do. I kind of still like this alone time that I could have. So it's also just such a good way of getting to know yourself better, because you're stuck with yourself forever, but you're not stuck with other people forever. And you're also not stuck with your university forever. You're not stuck with your halls forever. You're not stuck with the city you moved in forever, or a country. You're not stuck with anything forever other than yourself. So just be true to yourself and just enjoy being with yourself, and that's the most important thing. And anything else you can change, and it also applies to university. So I think that's gonna be it. I don't know if I actually covered what I wanted to cover, because I kind of wanted to cover more how it is to be disabled at university. I think I did in the first part, but if I didn't, just ask me any questions you have. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to my channel. I promise I'm gonna film more now, because I don't have a job, I don't have uni, I don't have anything to do other than playing Sims. So I promise I'm gonna upload more videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on Sunday. Yeah, on Sunday. See you, bye.